Kangin can't hold back anymore and decides to take revenge on his former coach. Haecheol tries to stop him, but Kangin refuses to listen to him. Then, the coach tells Kangin to hold his anger back just for the team's sake. He also advises Kangin to act smart and careful, and he shouldn't be reckless. Kangin says that he can tolerate if something happens to him. He was not even planning to counter the petty media attacks just yet, while thinking that if they prove themselves with Dream Squad's skills, that'll be enough. But now that his enemy is trying to ruin his team's future and attacking the people he is responsible for, he speaks loudly, saying he can't hold back. Haecheol says that he gets all of it, but if Kangin assaults Park Sang-jong, all of efforts they have made so far to establish the team can be wasted. Kangin replies that he is not dumb enough to assault a person of higher ranking in broad daylight. He says that he will quietly do it, where no one can see. Lastly, he gets out saying that he will make sure not to get caught. After his departure, Mihu asks Haecheol whether her brother will be all right. Haecheol replies that Kangin is a responsible person, so they should trust them. Alas, just in case he instantly contacts a lawyer just to be on the safe page. After some time, Kangin reaches the parking lot of his previously joined team named Slayers. He immediately destroys one of the CCTV cameras. The Slayers' dorm is a pretty old building, so there aren't too many CCTV cameras. So if he disables that one, he won't get caught on camera in the parking lot, and decides to take advantage of that scumbag Park Sang-jong's habits. Kangin remembers that Sang-jong has this routine where he sits in his car parked in the basement, making calls for a while. So he is bound to come down here, and just as he expected, Sang-jong walks in and is heading towards his car while talking in his phone. Kangin notices that Sang-jong is talking about match fixing. He laughs as he says that he will not get caught since he has many anonymous accounts. Then, the topic changes and comes to Choi Kangin. Kangin starts to record the voice. Sang-jong says that Kangin, who will never do match fixing since he is a game addict. He says that all the game addicts think that they are pro just because they get to play games and earn money. Moreover, these so-called pros are just tools. He says that he butters them up while they're doing well, milk them dry, and then, once they are used, tosses them out. He speaks loudly that there is no shortage of dumb kids eager to become gamers. Kangin clenches his teeth while hearing everything. He knows that his former coach is a bad person, but he never expected him to be such a piece of trash. He initiates the skill, hiding, and activates the chakra of fury and lands the first punch on Sang-jong. Park Sang-jong looks around after getting punched, but he doesn't see anything. He quickly decides to reach for his phone, but Kangin stops his hand by stepping on it. He then kicks the coach. Sang-jong shouts to receive help. Kangin lands another strong punch while saying that today he will make Sang-jong a dead meat. In a rage, Kangin punched so hard that if it would have landed on Park Sang-jong, it would have killed him. But luckily it landed just beside his head and made a hole in the ground. Kangin gets a grip of himself and says that it's not worth dirtying his hands on a scum like Park Sang-jong. He stands over Park Sang-jong and says that it is not over and he is going to make Park Sang-jong wish he were dead by messing with him every way he can. Back at their team building, Kangin tells Lee Haecheol that he heard Park Sang-jong talking on the phone about match fixing. Lee Haecheol gets shocked at this. Kangin then shows Lee Haecheol the video he had made of the conversation. Lee Haecheol gets mad after seeing the video, calling Park Sang-jong a piece of crap and says he is going to report him to the police. Kangin stops him and says now is not the time to report him to the police, as if they report him now, he will be charged with attempted match fixing. Lee Haecheol gets confused and asks Kangin whether he is actually planning to let Park Sang-jong go through with the match fixing. Kangin replies saying there is definitely someone behind Park Sang-jong pushing him for match fixing. He tells Lee Haecheol that Lee Haecheol knows that esports has been plagued by these kinds of scandals. Lee Haechol says yes, and that, weirdly, it happens a lot more in esports than any other sports. Kangin then says that all this has been bothering him for a while now, and he wants to take down every last one of those guys so they can never engage in illegal match-fixing again. Lee Haechol puts his hand on his face and says Kangin really loves this scene, and that he is a real esports guy, and that Lee Haechol is impressed. Kangin replies saying that he is a pro gamer after all, and that he can't just sit back and let his industry get ruined. He then tells Lee Haechol to introduce him to Lee Haecol's friend. Lee Haechol asks whether he is talking about Cheo Jung. Kangin asks whether Cheo Jung is the name of Lee Haecol's friend at the detective agency. Lee Haechol replies, saying yes, and that he was a detective and now runs a private agency. Kangin thinks to himself that Tracking Missile's real name is Kim Cheo Jung. Lee Haechol asks why Kangin is asking for Cheo Jung. Kangin says he wants to ask Cheo Jung to dig into Park Sang-jong and says that before they report Park Sang-jong, it would be better to know everything they can. Lee Haechol says that Kangin has made a good point and he will set up a meeting soon. Kangin tells Lee Haechol to tell Cheo Jung that it's a proper job this time and not a favor, because Cheo Jung has to make a living too. Lee Haechol suddenly notices Kangin's hand is bandaged. He nervously asked what happened to Kangin's hand. Kangin stutters and fails to say anything, and tells Lee Haechol to just wait and see while leaving, and Lee Haechol tells Kangin that his hand is all swollen. Kangin leaves and closes the door. Lee Haechol thinks to himself whether Kangin actually hurt his hand beating up Park Sang-jong. Since that day on, they looked everywhere for practice opponents, but every Korean team kept refusing scrims, otherwise known as practice matches. So, they gave up on scrims with Korean teams. As a substitute, they turned to scrims with overseas teams to make up for the lack of practice. They didn't care who they were facing, as at the moment it was more important to focus on syncing their teamwork than on winning, and as they built their teamwork up, before they knew it, 1 year had passed. They entered a game, and they had won even though they thought they would lose. However, at this rate, forget winning the championship, they won't even make it to the playoffs. A 70% win rate against low-tier Chinese teams. 70% is solid for a new team, but the problem is that it's only against low-tier teams. Kangin says they have to come up with some kind of solution. Meanwhile, some of the players begin to stream. They say that practice is over, so they have to hop on stream as the viewers are waiting for them. The team member who was not streaming previously then says that she will also stream for a bit before she goes to bed. Then, all three of them log out of the game. The teammate who remains, besides Kangin, says that it's all about the money, because money does make things easier, as there is nothing which money cannot fix in Korea. This gives Kangin an idea, and he says why he didn't think of it before. The teammate who remained asks Kangin whether he wants to queue up for some ranked games, but Kangin logs out. Meanwhile, Lee Haechol loses a game, which he was playing on his laptop, and says games are really tough, and he begins to say how Kangin wins the games. But before he could finish his sentence, Kangin barges in the room. Lee Haechol tells Kangin to knock before he enters, as he almost got a heart attack. Kangin tells his idea to Lee Haechol that they should pay for scrims. Using this idea, they finally get some Korean teams to play scrims with. Go-soo gets excited and says that they finally get to practice with Korean teams and that it is time to dominate again. Kangin tells everyone not to get too cocky, as Korean teams are different from foreign teams, and the strategies, the metas they use are all different. One of the team members says how different could it be, and another team member says that they are probably similar. Go-soo confidently tells Kangin not to worry, as he will show them his physical skills and crush them. But, unbeknownst to him, they in fact lose the scrim, and they all get shocked at their loss. All the team members, while still in shock, say that they should play again, and if they play again, they will surely win. Kangin says that if that is the case, they should do one more round, as he was going to keep playing anyways. However, their side lost again. From doing one more round, They end up playing many more rounds. In some of them, they lose as the enemy team succeed in slaying the explosive Dragon King Bahamut, while in another round, they lose their turret. They end up playing 10 games in which they only won 2 games and lost all the others. The opponent team members insult the members of Dream Squad as they say that Dream Squad acted tough in high-level solo-ranked games, but they are nothing special, and that the Kim Tak and Kim Hyuk brothers weren't skilled either. And they also say that who do the Dream Squad members think of themselves to think that pros and amateurs are the same, that they should just live as BJs collecting star candies. They say they feel pity for Kangen, as he is a pro-level player, but is losing due to playing with his weak teammates. After this insult session, all the Dream Squad players all log out one after the other, until there is only Kangen left. The opponent team members say to Kangen, "Kangen, this will do, right?" Kangen replies saying yes, and thanks the member for granting his request, indicating that he had intentionally told the opponents to insult Dream Squad so that they get ashamed and start practicing harder. Kangen pays the opponent team 1,000,000 cash to Team WVW. Kangen says that managing his expression is really hard and thinks that this insult session should be enough to provoke the team members. Kangen, in an evil way, monologues as he says sorry to the kids as this is all just to raise their skill levels. Kangen says that if it means his team members will become stronger, he will even take on the role of an evil villain. As expected, after scrims with pro teams, the effects were immediate. Dream Squad members gave up their personal broadcasts and devoted themselves to practice, and the online qualifiers, which were equivalent to the 3rd Division League, progressed smoothly. Dream Squad successfully joined the Challengers League, which is the 2nd Division League, without much difficulty. And so, with 3 days left until the Challengers League opening ceremony, Kangen was summoned to Planet Proxima. Kangen thinks to himself that it has already been a month and time passes really quickly. Once he reached Proxima, he is again greeted by Guntrak. Kangen asks him whether this time he is an enemy or a comrade, to which Guntrak replies that he is a comrade this time. He says that he doesn't want to fight Kangen. Kangen then notices the place where he was summoned and asks Guntrak where they are as it isn't a stadium. Guntrak says that they are in a dungeon. Kangen sees another man in the dungeon and thinks to himself who the man is. The man comes over and extends his hand to Kangen while saying, "Nice to meet you, Ghost. I am Bane. That orc over there is a comrade," referring to Guntrak. Kangen gets confused as to why Bane called him Ghost. Guntrak says that Ghost is Kangen's nickname because last time Kangen disappeared like a ghost. Kangen thinks whether Bane is supposed to be his companion this time. He thinks that Bane looks like someone who would betray others easily. Kangen then replies saying it is nice to meet you. Bane tells Kangen to please take care of Bane. Kangen says to himself that he has to keep an eye on Bane. In the meantime, an announcement rings out. The announcer says, "Ladies and gentlemen, gladiators, I assume you're all ready? Now I will begin explaining the event." Kangen says that there is nothing in the dungeon but sound is echoing. Guntrak calls Kangen stupid and says that this is a game that is being broadcasted live in 3 countries. Kangen gets shocked to hear this as he thought that this was in medieval times and he didn't think that broadcasting existed. The announcer says, "This event is Dungeon Conquest. It will proceed with 3 people forming one team, and the team that conquers the dungeon and defeat the final boss first will receive a skill book that the organizing committee has ambitiously prepared." Kangen asks what a skill book is. Guntrak calls Kangen ignorant, as he does not even know what a skill book is. He then says that it is a book containing supernatural powers. If anyone looks at the skill book, they will get supernatural powers. Kangen thinks to himself that is just as he thought, and that if he gets it, he will gain more skills like in a game. Guntrak says he has a question to ask Kangen. Kangen asks what question. Guntrak asks where the silver dragon Kangen had received is. Kangen stutters a little and replies saying that it is probably eating meat at home, while Bane is blankly listening without having a clue as to what they are talking about. Kangen then thinking about Lorien and says that it eats 30 kilos per day. Guntrak gets horrified at the amount of food told by Kangen. Guntrak then says that he is lucky he didn't pick the silver dragon as he can't pay for all the meat. Bane asks what they mean by silver dragon since earlier. Guntrak tells Bane that Kangen got a silver dragon from the mother bird's egg and says that Kangen is the luckiest man on the continent. Bane then says that who is Guntrak taking for a fool, as there is no way a silver dragon would come from a mother bird's egg, and says that it looks as if orcs these days are quite stupid. Guntrak gets extremely angry at this comment and enter into a rage saying he will kill Bane for saying this. Kangen then holds Guntrak's hand and tells him to calm down and tells him to ignore it as it does not matter whether the person believes it or not. Guntrak tells Kangen not to stop him and that he will kill Bane. Kangen then reminds Guntrak that he had told Kangen he needed to make money for his family. Guntrak then calms down and says okay and that he will make money and feed his family. At the same time, announcements ring out, telling them to leave the cave they are currently in and come to the dungeon entrance. They all make their way to the gate. Kangen thinks to himself that his head hurts even before entering the dungeon, and he hopes there won't be such bothersome things in the future. They find Polybius sitting at the table, and Kangen calls him an old geezer and asks whether he heard something wrong just now. He tells Polybius to repeat what he said. Polybius says that among the 7 entrances, if he enters one of them, he will definitely die, and he just said to choose carefully and asks what he said wrong. Kangen gets mad and says that the old man has gone crazy. Old man, think about it. If you were in the opposite position, would you leave your life up to chance? Kangen asks. Polybius says that he is not that crazy to leave his life up to chance and calls Kangen an insane person. Kangen gets extremely furious. He asks then, why should they leave their lives up to chance like idiots? While Guntrak restrains him from attacking Polybius. Kangen tells Guntrak that he should help instead of restraining him. Guntrak replies that luck is important, so they should leave it to luck. Guntrak. Isn't your life precious to you? You're saying to leave your life up to chance? Really? Kangen asks. Bane speaks in the middle, agreeing with Guntrak saying that he has a point. Every other gladiator is saying the same thing, that if they die in a place like this, partially their luck is also at fault. Kangen thinks that everyone here might have gone crazy to be able to speak of their lives like that. Polybius tells Kangen that, since he doesn't seem to be from this place, he might not understand. But this is how the world of Proxima gladiators works. If they die because of luck, they die. Lastly, he tells Kangen to decide whether he will go or not. Kangen thinks about what he should do. Since everybody isn't accepting this position, he can't object any further either. Meanwhile, one of the team decides to go before Kangen's team since they were taking a good amount of time. Kangen moves backwards and decides not to make a choice quickly and hastily. Guntrak tells him not to be angry so that they could choose a route. Polybius asks how long they are planning to worry about luck. He says that when it comes to dungeon conquest like this, time is life. Kangen, while scratching his nose, thinks that there must be a way, and he has a feeling that if he waits for a little longer, he might understand and be able to figure something out. He tries to look into the things he has before him. There are 7 dungeon entrances, and different sentences are engraved on each entrance, like a dog, a crying woman, and a farmer. And when he sees the sentence farmer, it piques his interest. Polybius again tells them to hurry, and finally Kangen speaks up. He says that he has something to ask. Isn't it a labyrinth? He asks. Polybius replies saying of course it is. Or what else it might be. Kangen repeats, asking whether it is the Daedalus labyrinth. After hearing this, Polybius gets furious. How did you know that? He shouts, and immediately covers his mouth with his hand. Kangen had a hunch, but now, seeing this old man's reaction has made it certain. At first he thought that this labyrinth is similar to the Daedalus labyrinth, but now he is certain that it's exactly the same. This place is from one of the mini-games from League of Infinity. He tells Guntrack that the place with the farmer drawing is a safe and easy route to go. Alas. The team decides to enter the labyrinth. But they are about to enter. Polybius asks Kangen how he knows the top-secret information of the Gladiators Association. Kangen blames it over to the security of the association. The old man shouts, saying that it can never happen. Kangen says that they would head inside now since he doesn't have time. Bane wonders what kind of person he is dealing with, to think that the person even knows the Gladiator Association top secret. Anyway, it is beneficial for Bane as he has a safe route to travel, so he decides to keep shut. At Lausanne, Western Switzerland in the International Olympics, IOC Chairman Coubertin declares that, as of today, Esports has been adopted as an official event in the Summer Olympics. Everybody gives a round of applause. The chairwoman thinks that all stages are set for Choi Kang-in to take action.